Yeah, cricket is where we begin. West Indies begin their tour of South Africa with the first test starting on Tuesday at SuperSport Park in Centurion. Let's remind you of the squad on that two-test tour of South Africa. Captain Craig Brathwaite, Jermaine Blackwood, the vice-captain, Alec Athanas, Tejnaran Chandapol, Roston Chase, Joshua Da Silva, Shannon Gabriel, Jason Holder, Akeem Jordan, Elzari Joseph, Carl Mears, Gudakesh Moti, Raymond Reefer, Kemar Roach, and Devon Thomas. Now, the skipper, Craig Brathwaite, spoke to the media ahead of day one.
Looking at this series, we're playing South Africa at home, and we know it won't be easy. We know South Africa is a tough team at home, but we're looking forward to playing some hard days of Test cricket and making West Indians proud. Looking here at this South African team, they still have a lot of experience, and they got obviously world-class bowlers and some quality batsmen. So as I say, we got to play some very good Test cricket, and it's important we take control of every hour. We don't think about the big picture, but I think once we take care of every hour, every session, I think we could do well in this series.
Yeah, as for the first-timers, Alec Athanas and Akeem Jordan, the captain Brathwaite says they're getting comfortable with the squad.
Very exciting to have two guys who would have done well in our last season, and it's great to have them, and I thought we welcomed them well, and they're quite happy and really looking forward to this experience.
Yeah, a lot of discussions as well about who should bat at number 3. The Windies have invested in Raymond Reefer, and Brathwaite has thrown his support behind him.
Well, it was great to have him get some scores, and he'll be hungry for more success. So it was good to get 2 scores. Good to spend some time at the crease, and it's important for him, to carry on those starts.
Here to help us preview the match is international cricket commentator Fazir Mohammed. Fazir, how are you doing?
Not too bad at all.
Good to have you. Let's start by having a look at what the final 11 will look like, specifically zoning in on the bowlers, I think, because I think for the most part you would think Tejnaran Chandapol, Craig Brathwaite at the top, Raymond Reefer at number 3, then Blackwood, Carl Mears, Joshua Da Silva. I think Jason Holder should be there as well. So the question really comes down to one, would you play Gudakesh Moti in this first test? And who are the 3 fast bowlers that would go with him?
Yeah, I will definitely play because he took 13 wickets in his last test match, and obviously the conditions are going to be very different. So the argument will be horses for courses. But as I've said before, and forgive me for belaboring the point, if we want to give spinners an opportunity to develop into world-class bowlers, if they're successful on one surface that favors them, they must be given an opportunity to take that confidence with them into the next match or wherever it may be. So I would think that Moti should play, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a horses for courses thing, because that's how we tend to do it when it comes to West Indies cricket. Having said all of that, Akeem Jordan, I think might be deserving of a look in, because the consideration will be as to whether or not someone like a Shannon Gabriel will last the course, and that's a consideration that's very important as well. It could be a low-scoring affair because the South Africans have been struggling with their batting of late. Their last 20 innings, they've barely gotten over 200 often enough. So that is a concern as well. But again, there's an element of fluidity to a couple of places. Kemar Roach fully fit and raring to go. Of course, Elzari Joseph, his place seems assured. From my point of view, the question will be whether or not the selectors and the physio and the trainer and whoever else is there would be sufficiently convinced that Shannon Gabriel can last the course of a test match, or we could see a change in that area as well.
Yeah, which way would you go, Faz? And also looking specifically at someone like Roston Chase. If Moti plays, does Chase get a game as well in this opening test, or does it automatically eliminate Roston Chase if you're playing Moti?
I don't think it's automatic, because I think what you have in Jason Holder is that advantage of a seamer who can contribute important runs as well. And yes, we know he hasn't really done a whole lot in Test match cricket, and we've talked about that at length. But I think he's quality enough a cricketer to be given another opportunity. And once more, because these 2 Test matches are being played in the area known as the Highveld in northern South Africa, the altitude, from what we understand, there's been a lot of rain over the last few weeks. The conditions will suit the seamers and the faster bowlers, and then again, we automatically leave out Moti, but I still believe he should be included. To answer your specific question as to Roston Chase, again, it will be as far as how the conditions present themselves, whether they feel that Chase can bring value with the bat, apart from his off spinners, which have gone off the boil as well. So there are a couple of undecided elements to it, and really I think it would come down to the conditions, and essentially, because we're talking about right now, it's almost midnight in South Africa already. I'm sure the think tank, the captain, the coach, they would more or less have in their minds the final 11, unless something really dramatic happens on the morning of the test match.
Right, and Faz, Jason Holder getting some runs on the bat during the practice match. How important is it that, the all-rounder, we know what he's been capable of, but, we haven't seen it for some time. How important is it that he continues on this form?
Well, it's good. And again, we have to put it in context. These are warm-up matches. Still, it's runs, it's wickets. It's an opportunity to get out there and get a bit of a workout, which is important. But you don't think that they will read too much into it, recognizing that taking on Kagiso Rabada and Amrit Nokia and the rest of the South African pace attack is very different from whatever they would have faced in that warm-up fixture. So, but yes, getting runs in there, spending time in the middle, like for Joshua De Silva, like for one or two others. I think there'll be a concern about the top order generally and the middle order as well, given the fact that they didn't really get stuck in as we hoped to in that match. So yes, for Jason Holder to get runs will be a confidence boost, but him having been in South Africa before, having experienced those conditions before, he will know that it will be a very different situation when the test match gets underway.
Right, and you mentioned the seamer Akeem Jordan, but I want to talk a bit now about Alec Athanase and, his inclusion in the teams as he get to play, and of course the South African conditions, which you would know better than me. Does, his style suit the conditions there?
And this is the problem, Mariah. The modern test tour is not really an opportunity for an unheralded player to really get an opportunity, unless something really a bolt out of the blue. Someone falls ill, someone gets injured in warm-up sessions, and he gets a game. Previously, when you have a 5-test series spread over a long time, and I know times have changed, that's now out the window, except for the big three, India, Australia, India. We know they run things the way they like it. So let's leave that alone. It's very difficult for an emerging talent, unless they've got a ton of runs and a ton of wickets to demand selection, to really get an opportunity in a situation like this. And if they fail, there's really not much of an opportunity to recover. It's just 2 test matches. And if you've lost the first test match, you want to ensure that you bolster your resources for the second test match. So yes, it's very difficult for an Athanase, for an Akeem Jordan to really make their mark if you're talking about just 2 test matches. If they do get an opportunity, which might be more of a shocker in the case of Athanase rather than Akeem Jordan, you really hope that they can take that opportunity with both hands.
Faz, for decades we've accepted that West Indies batsmen prefer pacey, bouncier wickets. Centurion will obviously offer that significantly more than they had in Bulawayo. But is that still true? Is the fabric and culture of West Indies batsmanship the same as it was before? And do they still enjoy pacier, bouncier wickets?
Lance, I think you didn't have any grey at all when the West Indies were more comfortable against faster bowling. Those days are long gone, and the evidence is there. And it's a consequence of a number of factors, Lance. We can't just blame the players, although they must take responsibility for their own skill or lack thereof. It's the nature of our Caribbean pitches. We recall a test match being played where Australia won in 2003 in Barbados, and even though they won, scoring 600 runs and winning by 7 wickets, I think it was, on the final morning, it was described by Steve Waugh as the worst test pitch that he's ever played on, simply because Barbados is known, if nothing else, for a bit of even pace and bounce, and it had none of that. So what we've created over a couple of generations is a generation of modern cricketers, with 1 or 2 exceptions, who are very uncomfortable against pace and bounce, who are very awkward dealing with quality attacks in those conditions. So to answer your specific question, the answer is that those days of our players enjoying those sorts of conditions are long gone, with one or two exceptions. Kyle Mills certainly likes it coming on. Jermaine Blackwood does as well. But again, when they're getting genuine pace and hostile pace as well on a helpful circuit, it's a very different situation as against up and down seamers or the occasional fast bowler spraying it all over the place. So yes, the West Indies will be tested in these conditions by the South Africans.
Yeah, not often that the West Indies are going into a test series against a top flight team with a better form guide. The South Africans have lost 4 of their last 5 and are winless in their last 5 test matches. The West Indies not as bad as that. Would that help the West Indies' confidence level going into this match?
I think it will help as far as feeling that they can be competitive on the bowling department. On the batting side, that is a concern for the West Indies. And again, when we talk about that form guide, the West Indies had an excellent form guide going into the 2 test matches against South Africa and St. Lucia in June of 2021. And we all know how that went. South Africa, in fact, going into that, hadn't won a test series for quite some time. And again, we all know what transpired. So you can throw away the form book when it comes to West Indies versus South Africa, especially in South African conditions, and especially at Centurion and at the Wanderers in Johannesburg, which are noted to be fast bowling seamers tracks, which offer a lot of assistance in that regard. Pace as well and bounce that could assist the spinners, which is another factor. But again, I don't want us to be reading too much into how the West Indies would have done against Zimbabwe in Bulawayo, for example.
Yeah, well, Faz, thank you very much for your analysis. And just to close out the conversation by saying the West Indies have played South Africa in 15 test matches. The South Africans have won 12 of those. The West Indies just 1 victory in those 15 test matches, of course. That coming in 2007, I think it was. Faz, we'll be talking about day 1 on tomorrow's show, and hopefully it will be a good day 1 for the West Indies.
Let's hope so. Take care.
All right, take care. Fazir Mohammed there as we close out our cricket action on the SportsMax Zone for this Monday. But coming up next, we're talking Manchester United, champions of the Carabao Cup for the first time since 2017. The Eric Ten Hag era starting brilliantly for the Old Trafford faithfuls. We'll be back to discuss more after this.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.